welcome to Talking with Cool People. Cool people in cool places.
Hi, I'm Greg from Outdoor Recreation. Today on Talking with Cool People, we'll be interviewing Tye Woodruff, who's just completed a trip down the Grand Canyon.
Okay, full disclosure here. This is my first Zoom call using a virtual background, and the results were less than satisfying. It looks like I have an awesome sort of helmet / ball on top of my head the whole way through. I can't seem to get rid of it.
So, hi, Tye Woodruff. Welcome to Talking with Cool People.
Nice. It's good to be here.
Right. So, you just completed a great trip of a lifetime down the Grand Canyon. And just wanting, before we get going here, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Tye Woodruff?
Well, I'm from a small town in northern BC called Charlie Lake. And I'm a fourth-year student at Sport, Health, and Physical Education program here at VIU. And I also work with VIU Outdoor Rec, doing all kinds of fun adventures and things like that, including rafting. And yeah, that's basically me in a nutshell right now.
Right on. So Tye, how'd you first get into rafting?
I would say my dad got me into rafting, kind of introduced me to it early on. We used to go as a family, do lots of cool rafting trips, when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. And I kind of took a hiatus from rafting for a couple of years after I moved out. And then when I started working for Outdoor Recreation, I got my ticket and started doing commercial guiding on my own. And that was 2 or 3 years ago.
That's cool. What kind of trips were you doing with your family when you were just a kid?
We did both day trips and multi-day trips up in the Peace Region area. So there's lots of cool rivers up there, the Burnt, the Graham, the Peace River, all super fun, pretty chill rivers. And my dad went and got his guiding ticket, I don't know, maybe after our 4th or 5th trip, after we flipped finally one time, and I think he decided that maybe he should get some training. And so we kind of were learning as we went along. So yeah, it was an interesting experience there.
Wow, that's a really great start. Sounds like some real memories.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Trial and error.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
So you just completed the trip of a lifetime down the Grand Canyon. How long was your trip?
We spent 14 days on the river, and then another 4 days, driving there and back. So 18 days total.
Wow. That's
yeah.
Amazing. So 14 days just down in the ditch, as they say.
Yeah, and people typically do it in 21 days. So we were a little more pressed for time. Our permit was only for 14 days, and so they were long days, pretty full. Yeah.
Wow, you must be feeling fit after rowing so much.
I was, yeah, until I quarantined for 2 weeks after, and not so much anymore. But I was feeling pretty good rowing every day. Yeah, got pretty strong.
Oh, that's cool. And what was your role? What was your job on the trip?
My job, I was in charge of one raft, and then I was helping everyone with rigging and basically reading the river map and helping scout all the rapids and sort of discussing what the best line would be, or my knowledge of rafting and the techniques to use, whether to back ferry a certain area or to just smash through it, and sort of provide insight on that. And I was always the first raft down, and so I was kind of the guinea pig or mother duck, and the other rafts would either follow me if my line looked good, or if it was messy, then they would try something else, tie down and see what happens.
Yeah. Wow.
And if he comes out alive, then we'll just follow him.
Wow, that's cool. Could you just quickly paint me a picture of what it was like a typical day in the ditch in the Grand Canyon?
So we got up crack of dawn every day. So the alarm clock was as soon as it was light enough to see your hand in front of your face, and it was time to get up.
Wow.
and we would spend some time, making coffee and eating breakfast. And then it was always everyone was in charge of their own breakfast, so it was just like oatmeal and bagels for me. I wasn't super picky.
Yeah, sounds simple but effective.
And then a big part of the day would be rigging the rafts for the rest of the day, and we always had to rig to prepare for a flip, and so that took up a big part of the morning. We would probably start rigging at 7:15, and then it would take a good 3 hours before we were ready to go on the river. So we would leave camp about 9:30 every day. Yeah, because you really want everything to be strapped down. And then after that, we would run some fun whitewater, cruise down the river, enjoy the sun, sing some songs, whatever we were feeling. There's maybe we'll stop for like a hike up one of the side creeks and check out some of the cool geography that's going on there, all the different layers of the earth. And we wouldn't stop until probably around 6 o'clock every day.
Wow.
And then, yeah, and so with the remaining light, we would make dinner, set up camp, and if we were lucky, we would eat dinner in the light, but it was sort of 50-50 on that. And then we were exhausted, so we go straight to bed. So we might have a fire every second night. We'd have a fire. You know,
So here's a bit of a random question. Other than because you're down away from all your normal amenities for 14 days. So like other than kind of your required equipment like a raft and all that, what was like some one item that was just like that made the trip more comfortable and awesome for you?
for me personally, I brought a canvas sleeping bag cover, which turned out to be like the best thing, because I could pretty much just use that and not have to set up my tent most nights. Like if it wasn't raining, it was super warm and saved me a bunch of time breaking down camp and setting up. And so then I could help with the rigging earlier on because I just roll up my sleeping bag, throw it in my bag, and then I would be ready to help with whatever, which is really nice because after 10 times of setting up and taking down your tent, it gets a little tedious.
No, you bet.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, for other people, I'd say like definitely remember to bring a chair because if you're 14 days on the river without a place to rest your butt, you're going to be pretty sad.
Yeah,
I had a chair with me too, so luckily I was covered.
yeah. Sounds like some two really important pieces of equipment for you. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there must have been some. I'm sure there was lots of awesome parts, but there's probably a few hard parts. What was a part about the trip that was like really challenging or difficult for you?
I guess the most challenging part happened before we were even on the river.
Hmm.
It's sort of preparing for the trip and trying to pack for 14 days. Um, and then once you're on the river, everything that you have with you is what you're going to have for the rest of the trip. So there's a little bit of pressure there, figuring out what to bring. For me, I hadn't done any super long trips, even over a week. So to portion out the food I would need for 14 days and the amount of clothes I would need, but also trying to keep it small and so that we wouldn't have too much gear, right? Because 14 people had to fit all their gear onto 3 rafts, and so you couldn't bring everything. I mean, rafting's pretty good. You can bring a lot of stuff, but if everybody brings, extra sweaters and extra food, then it gets pretty tight. So
I can imagine. What was a great highlight of the trip? I'm sure there was many. Probably hard to choose.
there was many. Yeah, there was a lot. Aside from just being in the canyon every day and being on the oars, guiding my own raft, I think one of the highlights was a stop we did at a place called Havasu Canyon. And in that canyon, there's sort of a kind of a natural bleaching that goes on, and it makes the water like a baby blue color. And we hiked up there and we found some really neat waterfalls into these big blue pools, and we did some cliff jumping into there, and it was like right out of like a travel magazine, like just stunning. So I'd say that's probably the best stop that we did. But also just knowing that like if I was to go back, there's like 100 more places like that that are just waiting to be found. Like we couldn't hike everything, so just knowing that there's more to do, that's good.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Adventure's not accomplished yet. There's still more to do.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would go back 100%. Yeah,
Cool.
there's more to see. Yeah.
You have any big surprises on the trip? Like scorpions crawling across you while you sleep or anything like that?
I had a ringtail cat pay me a visit one of the nights that I was outside of my tent.
Wow.
But they're pretty friendly. They're just looking for food, and there's lots of mice in the really popular camping areas because they know that there's going to be food there for them. So there's these big fat mice that like to hang around. But luckily, no scorpions and no rattlesnakes because we were early enough in the season. So
Oh,
yeah, that was good. I wasn't really hoping to run into them.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So actually, I read in the news that your group was involved in a rescue. Can you tell me
Yeah.
about what happened there?
Sure. Yeah, that was a pretty neat part of our trip. We at one of the harder rapids. I think it was called Crystal Rapid. We came down, and at the bottom, we seen this overturned raft, high and dry on a sort of an island, right below. And me being the first raft down, I was the first to see it. And with the raft, we couldn't really stop. Right, they're big, heavy, loaded with gear, and the water was fast there, and we seen it, but ended up floating by it. And about 200 300 meters downstream, we ran into this group of rafters that were camped in this tiny camp, and they sort of flagged us down, and we went over to them, and they were asking for bread and supplies because that was their raft that was stuck. And so we started giving them some of our extra tortillas and whatever, because we had no way of communicating to the guys above us that this was their raft and they needed help. And so we figured that everyone would come down, but two of our kayakers didn't show up. And so I thought, oh, like maybe they're digging around in that raft and messing with it. So I climbed up the bank to see if I could see them and signal to them to stay there. And as soon as I climbed up and looked, I seen them floating down the river on this upside down raft with their hands behind their heads, just floating on this upside down raft
Oh my.
down the river. And so I blew my whistle and like told them to like eddy out where we were, and threw them a throw bag,
Cool.
and pulled their raft into this camp. And these Americans that were stuck were just so shocked because they had tried to get it unstuck, but I guess the water levels changed. The kayakers were able to get it unstuck. And what possessed them to do that, I have no idea. The thought process behind, there's this raft, like we'll just get it unstuck. Someone will want it downstream, I guess, is the thought process behind that. It's not like they were going to be above it, so they pushed it off. And we flipped it over for them, and they had most of their gear still attached to it, and the frame wasn't damaged or anything, and they were able to continue their trip because of that. And so that was pretty cool to be able to share some Canadian hospitality with them, and look out for them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been expensive for them to fly the raft out, because that's what the park was going to do. They were going to bring in a helicopter and move the raft for them, which, yeah. And that would have been the second, because they had a helicopter come and pick up 2 of their guys that were stranded with the raft already. So it would have been another helicopter trip. Yeah, so it was
Expensive.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was pricey. So
Oh, crazy.
yeah, and we've been in contact with them since the trip ended, and they've been really awesome. And they're going to donate to a couple of I think a couple of our like paddling programs here on the island and things like that. Yeah, so they're paying it forward.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's good.
Huh, neato. So Tye, just a final kind of wrap up question. So this was obviously a super amazing opportunity you've had, and it sounds like you made the absolute most of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious. Do you have any advice for other students like yourself who want to get out there and have this kind of wild, awesome, super inspiring adventure?
I would just say, like, learn how to say yes to things, and don't be afraid to say yes. I didn't wake up one day and decide that I was going to raft the Grand Canyon, but I just, every time there was an opportunity, where there was, a chance to learn something new or go on some kind of new adventure, I would just, and that led to me being able to be a part of this trip, I would say, so don't turn things down. It's easy to say no, but sometimes, saying yes is going to pay off a lot more. So yeah.
Cool. That's great advice.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much today for taking your time out to talk with us and sharing your stories. It's really great to hear from you.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thank you, Tye. Okay. Stay safe out there and stay healthy.
You too.
Okay.
Easy.
Bye.
Bye.